Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Tuesday, October 31st. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Rutgers game is in 4 days. The game against Michigan in 25 days. We've been talking a lot about Michigan on this show recently, as well as the Buckeyes, of course. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about Rutgers. We're going to be doing that with a little help from a former Ohio State assistant by the name of Greg Schiano. He is, of course, now Rutgers head coach in his second tenure with the Scarlet Knights. He built them from basically the sub-basement of college football and got them to the higher level of the sport. He is in the midst of trying to do that very same climb again now with the Scarlet Knights after that program kind of returned back to rock bottom after he departed for the NFL. And he is seemingly making some pretty significant progress this year. So there was a lot of interesting stuff to come out of Greg Schiano's press conference on Monday. So we're going to let you hear directly from Greg Schiano about a whole bunch of stuff with the Buckeyes, some close family ties between the two programs, and that he has as well with some of the Buckeye folks, and much more. So we're going to start. Let's start with where a lot of coaches want to start. That is Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously someone who Rutgers would love to have on their team, but just like everyone else Ohio State plays, they do not. Where are areas that Marvin Harrison Jr. has stepped up his game over the last year in Greg Schiano's eyes?
Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s arguably one of the best players in the country, so he's continued to improve. You can see he's a real professional, the way he's prepared. And again, when you're going against players of that skill, they're very dangerous.
Marvin Harrison, of course, played his high school football in Philadelphia, which is well within Rutgers recruiting territory. And when Harrison played in Philly, guess who his quarterback was? Why, it was Kyle McCord. You probably know that already. But Kyle McCord was committed already to Ohio State when Greg Schiano got back to Rutgers. So he was asked, did he talk to him during recruiting? And then you're going to hear a quick follow-up here and just listen for what, if you want to interpret it, you might interpret that as a little bit of a shot at Michigan in his answer to that second follow-up question here.
No, we talked a little bit, and I talked to his dad. But you're right, he was committed, and he was all set with Ohio State.
And what do you think of how he's done so far?
He's a really good quarterback. He's you can see, I've been able to watch them on TV, so a little TV scouting. He's a fiery leader, and you can see his teammates believe in him. And he's a young quarterback who's getting better every week, so it's again, part of the challenge of playing a team that has so many skilled people.
I mentioned off the top of the show some family ties between the two programs. One of them is Derek McCord, that is Kyle's father. He was actually a player at Rutgers when Greg Schiano was a young graduate assistant. So Schiano was asked, what does he remember about Derek McCord way back when?
I think he might have been a sophomore. Okay. But yes, I knew his dad. And, I was a GA and I was the box lunch coordinator, so I probably got his dad a sandwich here and there.
Have you guys stayed in touch over the years? Had built a relationship?
I wouldn't say stayed in touch, but I've run across him at times, and he was always a good, fun guy to be around, fun guy to coach. I didn't really coach him very much. I ran the scout team, and he had already moved past that. But he's a good man.
This year's Rutgers team is substantially better than a lot of the Rutgers teams you've seen in the past. This game is not going to be quite the same level of punchline that it has been in some previous trips for the Buckeyes to Piscataway. One of the reasons is Rutgers may have found themselves a quarterback. His name is Gavin Wimsatt. He's been pretty good this year, and as a young quarterback, he's kind of just sort of progressing and developing with each week. How good was that weekend off, Rutgers coming off of an off week? How good was that extra week of development for Gavin Wimsatt?
Yeah, we had a good couple of practices last week, and Gavin got some real good reps. So it's, at the stage of his development, reps are critical, and the more you get, the better off you be.
Another example of family ties between the two programs this week. You are familiar, of course, with Ohio State cornerback Davison Igbinosun. He is a New Jersey native, and his brother Desmond Igbinosun plays for the Scarlet Knights. So they'll be on opposite sides in the secondary for both teams. Desmond is a junior defensive back who is a starter. He has 34 tackles for the Scarlet Knights. Davison has 35 tackles for the Buckeyes, one more than his brother, I'm sure. Having brothers myself, I'm sure that's not the kind of thing that gets trash talked about at all. Is this something that Greg Schiano remembers? having brothers on opposite sides of a game like this?
I don't know if I've recruited or coached brothers that have played against each other. I may have. I've been coaching a long time. Doesn't jump out at me, though. It's two teams playing each other. It's not two brothers playing each other. Although I asked Des, I said, does your mom have one of those split jerseys, half Rutgers, half Ohio State? We did recruit Davison coming out of high school, and that didn't work out. He went to Ole Miss. The second time I talked to him, but he was looking to go to a national championship contender, and he didn't feel we were that. So I understood that we weren't what he was looking for. So that's about it.
Rutgers is not blessed with the same level of depth and quality depth that Ohio State is. So when they lost starting linebacker Tyreen Powell, their leading tackler, to injury, that is not great for them. So how has that loss of Tyreen Powell impacted the Scarlet Knights defense?
Well, we had a three-way rotation going there with Mo and Dion and Tyreem. Now Tyreem is no longer in the rotation, so it would probably be more of a two-man rotation. But we have young linebackers behind that are preparing and getting better, and just you play with what you have.
There have not been all that many memorable moments in the Ohio State-Rutgers series history, but one of them definitely came last year during a fake punt right at the end of the game. Buckeyes had a huge lead. Jesse Mirko took the snap and just kind of kept rolling and ended up picking up 20-something yards. The play ended on the Ohio State sideline. There was a little bit of a scuffle. Greg Schiano ran across the field. There was a big screaming match between him and Ryan Day on the sidelines. It was quite a scene. Schiano was asked about that fake punt, and that's that screaming match on the sidelines. This week, he decided he was going to kind of downplay that, and so here's what his answer on that.
No, I don't think. I think that's in the distant past, and it had nothing to do with the fake punt. Nothing at all. It was to do with protecting our player that was on their sideline that was surrounded and getting pushed around. That fake punt wasn't called. It was our fault. We didn't put an edge to the punt block, and the kid is taught to roll, and if it's there, you take it. So there's no blame there. It was truly protecting our player. That was it. But feels like years ago.
I'm guessing if you asked Ohio State fans to name 10 players on the Rutgers team, they would probably be hard-pressed to do that. But there are some really inspiring and interesting stories on that team. One of them is Reggie Sutton. He's an offensive lineman. He suffered a major, major knee injury in week 4 of 2021, missed the rest of that season, missed all of last season, and only came back about 2 years after initially suffering that injury. He played sort of sparingly in a couple games and has now worked his way back into the starting lineup the last couple of weeks. So what has it meant to Greg Schiano to see Reggie Sutton work his way all the way back from that injury to get back on the field?
Is he the player that he was before he got hurt? No. Will he ever be? No. But he's certainly a stabilizing force, like Kirk said. He's a mature guy. He's an experienced guy, literally a coach on the field. And what we're trying to do is treat him, like the vet that he is, and make sure that we get him to Saturday where he feels he's never going to feel great, but he feels good enough to go out there and compete. And so far we've been able to do that. This past week was great for him. He did very little, if anything. We'll get him going again this week and see if we can't, one game at a time, see if we can't get him out there and have him be an effective player. But he's great. So happy for him. He's such a great young man and a guy who works his tail off. Many times I asked him, are you sure you want to keep doing this? I literally suggested he hang it up, but he was steadfast in his desire to want to do it. So when somebody does something for so long and then eventually gets the result they're trying to get, it makes me happy.
The Scarlet Knights do not have a ton of big play guys on their offense, but one of them is Jaquay Jackson. He had 17 catches already this year, averaging more than 17 yards per reception. So he is a transfer from California University, and I know you're thinking, the Golden Bears in Berkeley. Not so fast, my friends. California University in Pennsylvania. That is a Division II school. Their mascot, anyone want to guess? You're not going to get it. The Vulcan. The California University Vulcan in Pennsylvania. Anyone want to guess their fight song? Anyone? No? Chariots of Fire. So other than this program being apparently just straight flames, they are also a Division II program. Jaquay Jackson coming from there. What does he bring to that Rutgers offense?
Yeah, I mean, Jaquay is where I wish we would have had him now. I wish we'd have had him at the beginning of the year. He missed training camp. He wasn't with us in the spring. Really didn't get here until late June. So, I only wish we could have had him earlier because he is starting to hit a stride of sorts and getting better each week. Again, it comes back to the question about repetitions. Football is truly a game of repetition, and you can't. There's no substitute for those.
This has been quite a process for Greg Schiano to build the Rutgers program from bedrock to a little bit better and sort of making progress and closing the gap with teams like Ohio State that are on their schedule just about every year. So in the big picture, how much has that gap closed? How much closer are they to being ready to compete and, potentially beat teams like Ohio State or Michigan?
Yeah, I do very little big picture when it comes to that stuff. We're trying to be 1-0 at the end of the Ohio State season. We have to have a great week of preparation to do that, and then we have to go play our best game and see where that stacks up against theirs. And I can't control anything about them, but I certainly can us, and that's going to be my focus, that we have a great, consistent week of practice and then go play our best game of the season.
Schiano has a somewhat unique view on the Ohio State defense, having been a former Ohio State defensive coordinator himself. So he was asked this week to take a look across the field, and what were his thoughts when he looks at the Ohio State defense?
Yeah, they got a lot of good players. Yeah, you're looking at a front that is probably all NFL players. Their front seven will be all NFL players. But the good thing is the back 4 or 5 are all NFL players as well. So you're looking at a defense that is probably, I don't want to be exaggerating. I think every single guy there will be an NFL player, which including some depth players. So it is what it is. That's why they're one of the top defenses in the country. So we'll have our hands full for sure.
This has probably not gotten as much notoriety as it should have, but Rutgers is already bowl eligible. The Scarlet Knights are 6-2. This is the first time they have been legitimately bowl eligible since 2014. It is still, as we speak, October. That is pretty darn good. Rutgers did go to the Gator Bowl in the 2021 season. They lost to Wake Forest, but they only got to go there. They finished that year 5-8. They were not technically bowl eligible. Texas A&M had a whole COVID thing, and so the Scarlet Knights were asked to step in on 9 days' notice to play in the Gator Bowl against the number 20 Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Did not go great. This year, the Scarlet Knights have earned their own bowl win, or their own bowl appearance anyway, so far. Does this now feel to Greg Schiano like you're sort of seeing progress? You're sort of seeing some of is this sort of like some of those climbing years from his first time when he was at Rutgers, where they went from complete laughingstock and ended up being a program with some national notoriety? Does this year and getting bowl eligible sort of feel like some of those intermediate years where, hey, there's some real progress going on here?
Yeah, the similarities is we're building a program. I keep talking about the pipeline. And just like then, the pipeline wasn't full yet. We're getting closer. I think this 2004 class, once we get them here, will fill the pipeline. So then when you ask me questions about depth, we'll have more experienced depth. And when you ask me about our frontline players, they'll have cumulative repetitions. We have that in some areas, not all yet. But that's part of building a program, building a program the way we do it. We don't get ready-mades like the team we're playing this week. They get some guys that come in that are, 5-star guys, and, we don't get a lot of those. But that's okay. We know who we are. That's the key to being us at Rutgers is we develop guys. They believe in what we're doing. They believe in the development, and we're getting close to having the pipeline full. And that's where things get fun when that pipeline gets full. So we're getting close.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Schiano he's an interesting personality. He was always an interesting personality. Sometimes you get some really interesting stuff out of him when he was the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. Sometimes he doesn't want to talk about stuff, and he will just tell you, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. And so got to kind of appreciate that as well. But hope you guys enjoyed that. Some interesting storylines on this year's Rutgers team, some interesting family ties between the two programs. And don't worry, we will have a whole bunch more coming up later this week. We're going to be talking to Ryan Day and Jim Knowles Tuesday at noon. You can find that at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. We'll be streaming that live. Tomorrow's morning show, we'll probably be talking a whole bunch about what we learned when talking to Ryan Day, what we learned talking to Jim Knowles, probably answering some questions as well. And then we'll be back with Ross Fulton a little later on in the week, taking a look back at that Wisconsin game, what we learned about the Ohio State offense and defense. And then off to Rutgers for this weekend's game, noon kickoff this Saturday. We will be there. We'll have our usual pregame, postgame stuff all at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. And of course, lots of stuff this week happening at BuckeyeHuddle.com as well. Hope you guys can join us there. Very fun, active community. Boy, it has been a very active couple weeks on our message board there. Lots of interesting information flying around there. So if you have not signed up already, consider becoming a member at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.